We've all been there, sitting on the couch, phone in hand, scrolling through Instagram for what feels like 5 minutes, only to look up and realize 2 hours have passed. Or maybe you're deep into a video game, eyes glued to the screen, completely unaware of the time slipping by. And let's not forget the countless hours we've spent binge-watching the latest show on Netflix, barely able to pause for a snack. These activities are mindless, yet they feel effortless, even addictive. But when it comes to tasks that require focus, like studying for an exam, tackling that never-ending work project, or even hitting the gym for a workout, suddenly everything feels, well, exhausting. Why is it that we can effortlessly get lost in instant gratification activities, but struggle to focus on things that require effort and time? You might think it's because we're lazy, or maybe we just don't care enough about the task at hand. But if you've ever felt this frustration, I want to let you in on a secret. It's not about your willpower. It's not even about your goals. It's about something deeper, something inside your brain. The secret lies in a powerful little chemical that drives our behavior, dopamine. It's the neurotransmitter that controls motivation, desire, and the feeling of reward. But here's the kicker. The way modern life floods our brains with dopamine makes it harder for us to engage in activities that don't immediately satisfy our cravings for instant pleasure. So, why do we easily get hooked on distractions? And why does the idea of studying, working, or exercising feel like pulling teeth? Well, the answer lies in how our brains are wired to chase rewards. Understanding this process is key to hacking our motivation and finally learning how to love doing the hard stuff, the things that lead to long-term success. In this video, I'm going to show you how to train your brain to crave hard work and kick the habit of chasing constant dopamine hits. By the end, you'll have the tools to reset your brain and start focusing on what truly matters. Let's talk about a little molecule that plays a big role in nearly everything we do: dopamine. It's one of the most well-known neurotransmitters in the brain, and for good reason. Dopamine is often called the feel-good chemical, but its job goes far beyond making us feel happy or satisfied. Dopamine is, in fact, the molecule of desire. It's what motivates us to seek rewards and keeps us moving toward goals, whether those rewards are a slice of pizza, the feeling of winning a game, or the sense of accomplishment from finishing a project. In essence, dopamine drives us to take action. It's the chemical that triggers our brain to take steps towards something we anticipate will make us feel good. Think of it as the brain's internal reward system that pushes us to take action, whether it's working, playing, or eating. Dopamine doesn't care if the reward is a healthy one or not. It simply drives the behavior that leads to the reward. Now, let's connect this to how we live our lives today. Modern technology and convenience have created an environment where dopamine is constantly being triggered by instant gratification activities. Think about it. Whenever you check your phone and see a new notification, your brain gets a little burst of dopamine. Every like on your social media post, every new message in your inbox, and every notification from your favorite app all trigger this reward system. It's a steady stream of tiny dopamine hits throughout your day. And this doesn't just stop at social media. Gaming apps are specifically designed to give you dopamine bursts with every level you complete, every achievement unlocked, and every victory you claim. Food is another big one, particularly comfort food. That moment when you take a bite of your favorite snack is immediately followed by a dopamine rush, making you crave more. Even scrolling mindlessly through the internet, hunting for your next fix of entertainment or novelty, is driven by dopamine. So, what's the result of this constant stream of dopamine hits? Simple. Our brains get hooked. These activities create habits, addictive habits, that hijack our reward systems. What starts as a simple enjoyment of instant rewards can quickly turn into a cycle that's hard to break. Social media apps, video games, and even junk food manufacturers all design their products to give us these small bursts of dopamine, intentionally creating addictive experiences that keep us coming back for more. Let me give you a simple analogy to help explain how dopamine works in everyday life. Imagine you're sitting in front of your phone. You open Instagram, and your feed is filled with posts from friends, celebrities, or even random memes. Each time you scroll, you're subconsciously hoping for something to capture your attention, to get a little fix of dopamine. Maybe you see a post that makes you laugh, or perhaps you get a like or a comment on one of your own posts. That's when dopamine kicks in. The rush of excitement, the sense of validation, and the fleeting pleasure you get from that small reward. But here's the catch. After a few minutes of scrolling, you feel the urge to check again. Why? Because dopamine is encouraging you to chase that next fix. Each new notification is another opportunity for your brain to get a little rush of dopamine, and before you know it, an hour has passed, and you've lost track of time. This is the power of dopamine in action. It's not just about the immediate pleasure of getting a like or a new message. It's about the anticipation of that reward. The dopamine keeps you hooked, driving you to check again and again, even though you might not be consciously aware of it. Now, compare that to doing something productive, say, studying for an exam. There's no instant reward in studying, especially when the material is challenging or dry. You're not getting a burst of dopamine with every page you turn or every formula you memorize. The reward, the feeling of accomplishment, comes much later, after hours of hard work, when you finally ace that exam or complete that project. But in the meantime, your brain is not getting the same kind of dopamine rush as it would from scrolling through your phone or playing a game. And as a result, it feels much harder to stay focused and motivated on that task. It doesn't provide the same kind of instant feedback that feels so good. This brings us to one of the most important implications of dopamine's influence: productivity. In a world where instant gratification is at our fingertips, dopamine has made it harder than ever to focus on tasks that don't provide immediate rewards. Whether it's a school project, a work assignment, or building a business, these tasks require sustained effort over time. They don't offer instant dopamine bursts after each step. Instead, they demand discipline, focus, and long-term motivation. And that's where dopamine becomes a challenge. The more we engage in low-effort, high-reward activities, like checking our phone, playing games, or watching TV, the more our brains get used to those quick hits of pleasure, and the less rewarding long-term, effortful tasks feel. You end up finding it difficult to focus on the hard work required to achieve big goals, because your brain is conditioned to seek instant gratification. To make matters worse, dopamine tolerance can develop. This means the more you engage in activities that give you dopamine bursts, the more your brain needs to get from those activities to feel satisfied. Over time, the things that used to bring you joy, like studying, exercising, or working, start to feel less rewarding in comparison. You're no longer getting the same dopamine rush, which makes those tasks seem boring or unappealing. In short, dopamine is great when used in a healthy, balanced way. It helps us feel motivated, encouraged, and driven to accomplish things. But when our reward systems are hijacked by low-effort, high-reward activities, it becomes much harder to get excited about the things that matter in the long run. And that's why we end up stuck in a cycle of easy pleasures instead of pursuing the challenging tasks that will lead to success. The good news is, this cycle doesn't have to last forever. Once we understand how dopamine works and why it drives our behavior, we can start taking steps to hack our own brains and shift the focus back to more productive, rewarding activities. And that's exactly what we'll talk about next: how to reset our brains and build better, more sustainable habits. When it comes to motivation, the chemical dopamine is at the heart of everything we do. You may have heard dopamine referred to as the feel-good chemical, but it's more than just that. It's the driving force behind our desire to seek rewards, take action, and repeat behaviors that give us pleasure. Understanding how dopamine works can give us valuable insight into why we do what we do, and why we sometimes struggle with staying motivated for long-term goals. At its core, dopamine is a neurotransmitter, which is a chemical messenger in the brain. It plays a critical role in motivation, desire, and reward. When we engage in a behavior that we anticipate will lead to pleasure or satisfaction, our brain releases dopamine. This creates a feeling of pleasure, which encourages us to repeat the behavior. Simply put, dopamine pushes us to do things that will bring us rewards, whether that's a slice of pizza, a new message on our phone, or a big win in a video game. This release of dopamine doesn't just happen after we get a reward. It actually starts before we get the reward. Dopamine is released when we anticipate something good is about to happen. This is why it's so easy to get hooked on behaviors that offer quick rewards, such as checking your phone for notifications or hitting the next level in a game. Your brain gets a little dopamine rush just from the expectation of the reward, which makes you want to keep going back for more. This creates a cycle where we are naturally drawn to behaviors that give us frequent bursts of dopamine. We become conditioned to seek out activities that provide instant pleasure because they're so highly rewarding, whether it's scrolling through social media, playing games, or eating comfort food. This kind of behavior is reinforced every time we get that little dopamine spike. Over time, our brains begin to crave more and more of it. To really understand the power of dopamine, we can look at some famous experiments done on rats in the 1950s. In these experiments, researchers implanted electrodes into the brains of rats and connected them to a device that would stimulate their brain's reward system whenever the rat pressed a lever. The result? The rats became completely obsessed with pressing the lever, even to the point of neglecting basic needs like eating, drinking, and sleeping. They would press the lever over and over again, sometimes for hours, just to get another dopamine hit. In fact, these rats became so addicted to the stimulation of their reward system that they would keep pressing the lever until they collapsed from exhaustion. They preferred this dopamine hit over food, water, or even mating. This extreme behavior highlighted just how powerful the drive for dopamine can be. It becomes so overwhelming that even basic survival instincts can be overridden. While these rat experiments might sound extreme, they're a powerful example of how dopamine drives behavior. In a similar way, humans can get addicted to behaviors that trigger dopamine releases. Social media, video games, and even food are designed to give us just enough of a dopamine hit to keep us coming back for more. And just like the rats, we can end up neglecting other important aspects of our lives, like relationships, work, or long-term goals, because the pursuit of that dopamine high becomes all-consuming. While dopamine is crucial for motivation, there's a catch. The more we expose ourselves to high dopamine activities, the more our brains adapt. Just like how your body can develop a tolerance to substances like caffeine or alcohol, your brain can develop a tolerance to dopamine. This means that over time, you'll need more dopamine to feel the same level of pleasure or satisfaction from the same activities. For example, when you first start playing a new video game, every new level feels exciting. You get a dopamine rush with every victory or achievement. But as you continue to play, those little victories start to feel less rewarding. You find yourself needing to play longer or engage in more challenging parts of the game to get the same dopamine burst. This is dopamine tolerance in action. The more you expose yourself to a high dopamine activity, the more your brain needs to get that same feeling. This tolerance doesn't just affect video games. It applies to anything that provides an instant dopamine fix, including social media, junk food, and even gambling. You start to need more and more of these activities to get the same satisfaction, which leads to compulsive behaviors. Eventually, this tolerance can make it harder to engage in other, more productive behaviors because they simply don't provide the same level of dopamine rush. Now, let's bring this back to human behavior. The problem with constantly chasing dopamine hits is that it affects our ability to focus on long-term goals, especially those that require sustained effort. Tasks like studying, exercising, building a business, or working on personal development don't provide the same immediate rewards. There's no instant gratification. The reward only comes after hours of hard work, and even then, it might not feel as exciting as the dopamine rush you get from scrolling through social media or playing a game. This is why people often find it hard to stick to productive habits. When our brains are conditioned to seek instant rewards, it becomes incredibly difficult to engage in tasks that require time, effort, and patience. The longer the delay between effort and reward, the less motivation we have to put in the work in the first place. We end up procrastinating, avoiding tasks, and feeling overwhelmed because our brain is constantly craving that instant dopamine fix. Moreover, because our brains are so used to getting those dopamine bursts from entertainment, food, or social media, it becomes even harder to enjoy activities that don't give us the same immediate payoff. This is where the cycle of addiction to high dopamine activities starts to interfere with our productivity and long-term goals. We become so hooked on quick rewards that we struggle to focus on things that matter in the long run. The solution to this is not to avoid dopamine altogether. After all, dopamine is what motivates us to accomplish things, enjoy life, and even engage in positive behaviors like exercise. The key is understanding how dopamine works and taking steps to balance its influence. This will allow us to break the cycle of constant reward seeking and refocus our energy on activities that provide lasting satisfaction and long-term success. In the next sections, we'll explore how we can reset our dopamine-driven brain and start enjoying hard work again. We'll dive into the concept of a dopamine detox and how we can regain control over our reward systems to make focusing on long-term goals feel easier and more satisfying. In our fast-paced modern world, we've become accustomed to instant gratification. Whether it's getting a quick response to a text message, receiving a like on our social media posts, or completing the next level in a video game, we're constantly being conditioned to expect and seek out immediate rewards. This shift in how we experience rewards has made it more difficult to engage in tasks that require sustained effort or that don't provide instant feedback. But why is it so hard to choose long-term goals that might bring greater benefits, such as studying for a test, starting a business, or getting in shape, over the easy, quick rewards? The answer lies in how our brains have adapted to the constant stream of high dopamine activities. As we begin to engage in more instant gratification behaviors, our brains get used to that quick dopamine rush, and the more we experience it, the more we crave it. Our brains are wired to seek out behaviors that provide us with that sense of pleasure as quickly and efficiently as possible. But this comes at a cost. It's a simple equation. When your brain gets used to the instant pleasure of social media, gaming, or eating junk food, it starts prioritizing those easy sources of dopamine. Over time, these behaviors become more appealing because they provide that quick, predictable reward. Meanwhile, tasks that require hard work and patience, things that don't give you an instant payoff, seem less desirable. Why would you choose something that's hard, slow, and potentially frustrating when you could instantly feel good just by scrolling through your phone or watching a video? Here's the thing. The tasks that require effort, like studying, exercising, or building a business, are often the ones that will bring the most long-term benefits. But they don't release dopamine in the same way. They're not immediately gratifying, and that can make them feel less appealing. Your brain gets caught in the cycle of chasing instant rewards, and as a result, you struggle to stay focused on more difficult tasks, even when you know those tasks will ultimately help you achieve your goals. When you get used to the easy dopamine rush, it becomes harder and harder to motivate yourself to work on tasks that don't provide that same immediate satisfaction. You might find yourself putting off tasks, procrastinating, or even avoiding them entirely, just because the brain's craving for instant gratification feels so much stronger. Here's how the cycle of instant gratification and reduced motivation for hard tasks works. Every time we engage in a high dopamine activity, our brain rewards us with that rush of pleasure. Whether it's a like on a post, a new level in a game, or a delicious treat, the dopamine release creates a sense of satisfaction. This positive feeling encourages us to repeat the behavior, reinforcing the habit. But with each subsequent dopamine release, our brain's tolerance builds up. The more we engage in these behaviors, the more dopamine our brain needs to feel that same level of pleasure. As a result, when you try to focus on tasks that don't release as much dopamine, like studying, working, or exercising. Those tasks feel less rewarding in comparison. It's not that you don't want to succeed or reach your goals. It's that your brain is so used to the high dopamine rewards from easier tasks that the low dopamine tasks feel dull, boring, and exhausting. And because your brain craves dopamine, it keeps pulling you back to the easier, more pleasurable activities. This cycle can quickly spiral out of control. The more you engage in low-effort, high-reward activities, the harder it becomes to break free and focus on the more difficult tasks. You might tell yourself that you'll start studying after one more episode of your favorite show, or that you'll begin your workout after just a few more minutes of scrolling through your feed. But what ends up happening? That one more episode turns into 3 or 4, and those few more minutes turn into an hour. Before you know it, the day is over, and you've accomplished nothing towards your long-term goals. I can personally relate to this cycle. I've often found myself procrastinating on things that I knew were important, things that would help me achieve bigger, long-term goals. Take working on a personal project or learning something new, for example. It's easy to sit down at my desk, open up a book, or start researching. But after a few minutes, the temptation to check my phone or watch a quick video creeps in. I'll tell myself, just a quick scroll through Instagram, then I'll get back to work. But of course, that quick scroll turns into 20 minutes, and before I know it, I've lost focus. The dopamine rush from social media or a funny video feels so much better in the moment than the slow, effortful process of working on a task. There have been times when I've had a huge project to complete, and despite knowing how important it was, I found myself avoiding it. I'd keep putting it off because the work seemed daunting, and the immediate pleasure from mindless activities felt so much more appealing. It wasn't that I wasn't motivated, it was that my brain was so conditioned to seek quick rewards that it felt almost impossible to stick with the task. The thought of slogging through hours of work without an instant reward felt like a mountain to climb. It took me a while to realize that the cycle I was stuck in wasn't just about willpower. It was about how my brain was wired. My brain was trained to prefer the instant satisfaction of scrolling through my phone, rather than the delayed gratification of completing a task or achieving a goal. Once I understood that, I started to recognize the patterns, and, more importantly, I knew what I needed to do to break the cycle. Understanding this cycle is the first step in breaking free from it. Once we realize that dopamine-driven habits are what make us crave instant gratification, we can take steps to rewire our brains and retrain ourselves to focus on more rewarding, long-term tasks. And just like any habit, breaking the cycle of instant gratification is going to take time, effort, and consistency. But it's possible. In the next section, we'll explore how to reset your dopamine-driven brain and make those difficult tasks feel easier. You'll learn how to stop chasing instant rewards and start focusing on what really matters for your future. Ever wonder why some people seem to have boundless motivation to tackle tough tasks, while others struggle to even get started? It's a question many of us ask when we find ourselves procrastinating or feeling overwhelmed by things we know are important. Why does it seem like some people can easily sit down and study for hours, hit the gym regularly, or stay focused on their goals, while others are constantly distracted and demotivated? The difference often lies in a combination of brain chemistry, habits, and the types of motivation driving their behavior. When we look at motivation, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. Some people are naturally more driven to tackle challenging tasks, while others find it almost impossible to stay focused for long periods. One key factor in this difference is brain chemistry. People's brains release dopamine in different ways and at different intensities. For some, the anticipation of a reward is highly motivating. This is why certain people seem to thrive on challenges and stay motivated even when there's no immediate reward. Their brains are naturally wired to find satisfaction in delayed gratification. On the flip side, others may experience more intense cravings for immediate rewards. Their brains crave those dopamine hits that come from easy, instant pleasure activities, like scrolling through social media or playing video games. This can make it harder for them to engage in tasks that require prolonged effort without the quick payoff. But it's not just about chemistry, it's also about habits. Habits, whether positive or negative, play a huge role in how motivated we feel on a daily basis. Over time, the more a person practices a certain behavior, the more ingrained it becomes in their brain. For those who have developed the habit of tackling hard tasks head-on, this becomes easier and more automatic. But for those who are used to procrastination or giving into distractions, the struggle is real. Here's where neuroplasticity comes into play. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's ability to change and adapt based on our experiences. Essentially, the more we engage in a particular behavior, the more our brain strengthens the neural pathways associated with it. This is why habits can feel so automatic. Once a behavior has been repeated enough times, it becomes ingrained in our brain's wiring. For example, someone who has developed a habit of exercising every morning may find it much easier to get out of bed and work out, even when they're tired. Their brain has formed a neural connection between waking up early and the reward of feeling good after a workout. On the other hand, someone who hasn't built this habit might struggle to motivate themselves to exercise. Their brain is not yet wired to associate exercise with positive feelings, making it feel like a monumental task. This is why some people appear to be naturally more motivated. They've spent years building positive habits that support their long-term goals. These habits don't just happen overnight. They are the result of repeated actions over time. But the good news is, this is something we can all do. Even if you've struggled with motivation in the past, it's never too late to start building better habits. The key is consistency. Another important factor in motivation is the type of motivation driving our behavior. People are generally motivated by two types of rewards: intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic motivation comes from within. It's driven by the satisfaction of doing something for its own sake, rather than for external rewards. For example, someone who enjoys learning might be intrinsically motivated to study, simply because they find the process fulfilling and engaging. Similarly, someone who exercises because it makes them feel strong, healthy, or accomplished is driven by internal rewards. Extrinsic motivation, on the other hand, comes from external sources, like praise, recognition, or validation. You might be motivated to study for a test because you want to get a good grade, or because your parents expect you to. Or you might exercise to get compliments, or to show off your progress on social media. While extrinsic rewards can certainly provide motivation in the short term, they are less reliable when it comes to sustaining long-term effort. Here's where the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation really matters. People who rely heavily on extrinsic motivation, like praise, approval, or external validation, often experience dissatisfaction once that external reward is no longer available. For example, someone who works out to look good for others may eventually lose motivation if the praise they were seeking isn't as forthcoming. Similarly, if you're studying for a test only for the grade, you might struggle to stay motivated once you're no longer in a grading system. This is because the motivation was never rooted in the enjoyment of the task itself, but in the external reward. In contrast, intrinsic motivation tends to be more sustainable. People who are intrinsically motivated to learn, grow, or improve themselves are more likely to persist, even when external rewards aren't present. For example, someone who loves reading or learning for the sheer joy of it will likely continue to do so, regardless of whether they get praise or recognition. This is why it's so important to cultivate intrinsic motivation when it comes to our long-term goals. When you learn to enjoy the process, whether it's studying, exercising, or working on a side project, motivation becomes less about chasing external validation and more about personal fulfillment. So, what's the takeaway here? Motivation is complex. Some people may be naturally more driven to tackle challenges due to their brain chemistry or because they've built positive habits over time. But whether you're naturally motivated or you've struggled to stay on track, it's possible to improve your motivation with the right strategies. The key is to focus on building intrinsic motivation, finding internal rewards that will help you stay consistent even when external validation isn't around. And by understanding neuroplasticity, you can train your brain to form positive habits that make it easier to achieve your long-term goals. The good news is that motivation is a skill you can develop over time. It's about understanding what drives you, setting up your environment for success, and consistently doing the hard work until it becomes as automatic as checking your phone. And as you build those habits, you'll start to notice the shift from struggling with motivation to feeling more naturally driven to achieve your goals. So far, we've talked about how dopamine drives our behavior, why we're addicted to instant rewards, and how this affects our ability to focus on long-term goals. But what if there was a way to reset our brain and regain control over our dopamine-driven cravings? The answer lies in something called a dopamine detox, a technique that has gained attention in recent years as a powerful tool for breaking free from the cycle of instant gratification. If you've ever found yourself mindlessly scrolling through social media for hours, getting lost in video games, or eating junk food because it feels good in the moment, you know how easy it is to get trapped in this cycle. The good news is that you don't have to stay stuck there. A dopamine detox can help reset your brain's reward system and restore your ability to focus on more meaningful, long-term goals. A dopamine detox is essentially a period of intentional deprivation from high dopamine activities. The goal is to reduce your brain's dependence on instant gratification and reset its reward system. By temporarily stepping away from activities that provide immediate rewards, like social media, video games, junk food, and even some forms of entertainment, you allow your brain to recalibrate. During a dopamine detox, the idea is to avoid activities that trigger large bursts of dopamine. This doesn't mean you cut out all pleasurable activities, but rather, you reduce the things that give you an easy, quick fix. The process might sound intense, but it's actually designed to give you the mental clarity and focus needed to break the addictive cycle of instant gratification. By doing so, you can start appreciating activities that may not immediately release dopamine, but are much more fulfilling in the long term. In today's world, we're constantly bombarded by sources of instant gratification, whether it's checking your phone for notifications, eating a sugary snack, or watching a video on YouTube. These high dopamine activities train our brain to expect constant rewards. As we've seen earlier, this overexposure to dopamine can lead to dopamine tolerance, which means that we need more and more of these rewards to feel the same level of pleasure. Over time, this makes it harder for us to engage in activities that are low in dopamine but offer long-term benefits, like studying, exercising, or working on our goals. The problem is, once we get used to this constant stream of dopamine, we can't help but crave it. We feel the urge to check our phones, eat junk food, or scroll endlessly through social media. But these behaviors don't lead to lasting satisfaction. They only reinforce the cycle of instant gratification, leaving us distracted, unproductive, and unfulfilled. This is where a dopamine detox comes in. By intentionally stepping away from high dopamine activities, you force your brain to adjust its reward system. When you remove the constant bombardment of quick rewards, your brain becomes more sensitive to the smaller, less intense pleasures in life. It helps reset your cravings and allows you to appreciate the rewards that come from hard work and patience. So, how does a dopamine detox actually work? The key is in the concept of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and reorganize itself over time. When you expose your brain to a certain behavior or stimulus repeatedly, the brain forms neural pathways that make that behavior more automatic. In the case of high dopamine activities, your brain has become wired to seek those rewards constantly. By removing these high dopamine sources for a period of time, you essentially interrupt that cycle. Your brain's reward system gets a chance to reset and recover. When you stop engaging in activities that trigger large dopamine releases, your brain's sensitivity to these rewards decreases. Over time, this makes it easier to engage in activities that are low in dopamine but much more fulfilling, like working on long-term projects, exercising, or spending time with loved ones. Here's a simple way to think about it. Imagine you've been eating junk food every day for weeks. Your body gets used to the constant sugar rush, and it begins to crave that feeling. But when you stop eating junk food for a while, your cravings start to decrease. After some time, you may start to enjoy healthier foods because your taste buds have reset. The same process happens with dopamine. By cutting out the sources of quick rewards, your brain learns to appreciate the smaller, more sustainable pleasures that come from hard work and patience. A dopamine detox isn't just about cutting out distractions. It's about improving your mental clarity, focus, and overall sense of well-being. Here are some of the key benefits you can expect from doing a dopamine detox. 1. Mental clarity. When we're constantly bombarded by notifications, social media, and other distractions, our minds become cluttered. It's hard to focus on anything for an extended period of time because our brains are conditioned to expect constant rewards. A dopamine detox helps clear this mental fog. By stepping away from distractions, you give your brain the space to think more clearly, prioritize tasks, and focus on what really matters. The mental clarity you gain from a detox makes it easier to engage in deep work and creative thinking. 2. Increased focus. One of the most significant benefits of a dopamine detox is the improvement in focus. When you stop engaging in high dopamine activities, you can train your brain to stay focused for longer periods of time. This is especially helpful when it comes to tasks that require sustained effort, like studying, writing, or working on a project. Without the constant urge to check your phone or seek out quick rewards, you'll find it easier to concentrate and make meaningful progress on your goals. 3. Reduced dependence on instant gratification. A dopamine detox helps you break the cycle of seeking instant rewards. Over time, your brain becomes less reliant on high dopamine activities for pleasure and satisfaction. This makes it easier to focus on the long-term rewards that come from hard work. The more you practice delaying gratification, the more you'll find yourself enjoying the process of working toward a goal rather than focusing on the end result. This shift in mindset can help you build more sustainable habits and stay motivated for the long haul. 4. Increased appreciation for simpler pleasures. When you remove the constant stream of high dopamine activities, you start to appreciate the simpler pleasures in life. Whether it's a walk in nature, spending quality time with friends and family, or engaging in creative hobbies, you'll find that these activities become more fulfilling. Without the constant rush of instant gratification, your brain learns to enjoy the slower, more rewarding experiences that come with time and effort. 5. Rewiring your brain for long-term success. Ultimately, a dopamine detox helps you rewire your brain to focus on long-term goals. By removing the distractions of instant rewards, you shift your brain's focus from short-term pleasure to long-term achievement. Over time, this makes it easier to stay motivated and focused on tasks that will bring lasting success, whether it's building a business, pursuing a career goal, or improving your health. A dopamine detox isn't about completely eliminating pleasure or avoiding fun, it's about creating balance. By resetting your brain's reward system, you can break free from the cycle of instant gratification and start prioritizing the things that matter most. The result? More focus, more motivation, and more long-term success. If you're tired of feeling distracted, unfocused, or unproductive, a dopamine detox might just be the reset you need. A dopamine detox may sound challenging at first, but with a clear plan in place, it can be an incredibly rewarding process that helps reset your brain and regain control over your habits. The goal is to take a break from high dopamine activities and allow your brain to reset its reward system. Below is a step-by-step guide to help you perform a successful dopamine detox. Step 1. Preparation. Before you dive into the detox, the first step is to prepare by removing or minimizing sources of high dopamine activities in your life. These are the things that trigger quick bursts of pleasure and become habitual. Here's a list of common sources of high dopamine activities to consider eliminating. Phones and social media. Notifications, scrolling, texting, or browsing social media apps like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, etc. Gaming, video games that provide instant rewards and gratification. Junk food, processed foods, sugary snacks, and anything else that provides an immediate pleasure. TV or streaming services, binge-watching shows or movies that provide entertainment without much effort. Excessive caffeine. It might be tempting to turn to a cup of coffee or energy drinks, but these too can provide bursts of stimulation and make the detox harder. The key to preparation is eliminating or minimizing these distractions as much as possible. This doesn't mean that you have to quit everything cold turkey forever, but for the duration of the detox, these activities need to be put on hold. You should also prepare your environment for success. For example, make sure your phone is out of reach, turn off unnecessary notifications, and set up a space where you can focus on activities that are free of distractions. It might also help to tell someone close to you about your detox so that they can support your effort and hold you accountable. Step 2. Choose your duration. A dopamine detox isn't about abstaining forever. It's about giving your brain a chance to reset. The next step is to decide how long you want the detox to last. Common durations include 24 hours, a shorter detox, perfect for beginners who want to dip their toes in and see what the process feels like. 48 hours, a more intensive detox, giving you a bit more time to experience the mental clarity and focus that come from stepping away from distractions. A full week, for those who want a more dramatic reset, though this duration can be quite challenging for beginners. If you're just starting, I recommend beginning with 24 or 48 hours to give your brain the time it needs to recalibrate without feeling overwhelmed. Step 3. What to do during the detox. Once you've set aside a block of time for your detox, the next step is to decide what to do during that time. Since you'll be avoiding high dopamine activities, it's important to replace them with low dopamine activities that allow your brain to reset. Here are some activities that are ideal during a dopamine detox. Walking. Take a walk in nature around your neighborhood or through a park. Walking is a simple, low dopamine activity that helps clear your mind and provides mental clarity. Journaling. Use this time to reflect on your thoughts, goals, and emotions. Writing can help you process your feelings and gain insight into your life, making it a powerful tool during a detox. Meditation. Try mindfulness or guided meditation. These practices encourage you to sit with your thoughts without the need for external stimulation. Meditation can help you develop emotional resilience and train your brain to focus. Reading. Choose a book that's engaging but not too stimulating. A book that requires you to think or focus without constantly rewarding you with instant gratification is a perfect choice during the detox. Reflection on goals. Spend some quiet time thinking about your long-term goals, your current habits, and how you want to structure your life moving forward. This could involve setting new intentions or even planning out actionable steps for a new project or habit. Remember, the goal during the detox is to engage in activities that provide gradual rewards and allow you to build a sense of accomplishment over time without offering instant gratification. Focus on things that require your full attention but don't provide a dopamine rush in return. Step 4. What to avoid. During your dopamine detox, there are certain activities that you need to avoid completely in order to make it effective. Phones and social media. Keep your phone away or in another room. Avoid checking emails, texts, social media, or anything that gives you quick dopamine hits. Gaming. Steer clear of video games, apps, or anything that provides that same instant gratification. TV or movies. Resist the urge to binge-watch shows. This is an easy way to escape from boredom, but it doesn't help reset your brain. Junk food. If you're used to snacking on unhealthy foods when bored, this is the time to avoid them. Stick to healthy eating habits. Online shopping. Avoid the temptation to browse or shop online, as this can also trigger dopamine responses. The goal is to eliminate distractions that can hijack your focus and make it harder to stick to the detox. When you step away from these activities, you give your brain the space it needs to reset and begin craving simpler, more fulfilling activities. Step 5. Overcoming the challenge. A dopamine detox can be incredibly challenging, especially at first. After all, you're essentially removing the very things that provide you with instant pleasure. But here's the truth. It's going to feel uncomfortable at times, and that's okay. Embrace the boredom. In today's world, we're constantly distracted. Our brains are wired to expect constant stimulation. So when we suddenly remove that, we may feel restless, anxious, or even irritated. This is completely normal. The key is to embrace those feelings of discomfort. Here are some tips for staying strong during the detox. Mindfulness. Practice mindfulness to help manage the discomfort. Simply observe your feelings without judgment. If you feel bored, acknowledge it, and then let it go. Mindfulness can help you navigate difficult emotions without turning to distractions. Set small goals. Break the detox into smaller steps. For example, focus on making it through the first 4 hours without checking your phone. Celebrate those small victories as you go. Remind yourself of the benefits. Keep the bigger picture in mind. This detox isn't about punishment. It's about resetting your brain and regaining focus. Remind yourself why you're doing it, to improve your mental clarity, boost your focus, and break free from the cycle of instant gratification. Stay active. If boredom becomes overwhelming, get up and move. Take a walk, stretch, or engage in some light physical activity to distract yourself in a healthy way. A dopamine detox can be incredibly transformative. It gives you the opportunity to disconnect from distractions, reset your brain's reward system, and regain control over your habits. Although it may be difficult at first, the long-term benefits of a dopamine detox, such as improved focus, mental clarity, and reduced dependence on instant rewards, are well worth the effort. By following this step-by-step guide, you'll be well on your way to breaking the cycle of instant gratification and becoming more mindful of how you engage with the world around you. One of the most challenging aspects of a dopamine detox is boredom. For many of us, boredom feels like an uncomfortable, almost unbearable experience. We've become so accustomed to being constantly entertained or distracted, whether through social media, video games, or even just mindlessly scrolling on our phones, that the idea of being bored can seem foreign or unsettling. But here's the thing. Embracing boredom is actually a crucial part of the detox process, and it can have profound benefits for your mental health, creativity, and productivity. During a dopamine detox, boredom becomes your ally. At first, it might feel like an adversary. When you take a break from the usual distractions, social media, junk food, gaming, or binge-watching TV, you might find yourself struggling to fill the empty space. The mind craves stimulation, and when it's deprived of the usual dopamine hits, it can feel restless. But instead of avoiding boredom, embrace it. Boredom, though uncomfortable, is a signal from your brain that it's seeking something meaningful. When you remove the distractions, your brain is forced to seek new ways to find fulfillment. It's in these moments of boredom that true creativity and deeper thinking begin to emerge. Your brain starts to look for productive and creative outlets because it's no longer being constantly fed by quick, shallow rewards. Boredom acts as a reset button. It pushes you to think outside the box and seek fulfillment in a way that is more fulfilling and long-lasting. This is why boredom is so powerful during a dopamine detox. It clears the mental clutter, giving you a fresh perspective on what truly matters. From a scientific standpoint, boredom is incredibly beneficial for the brain. When we're constantly engaging in activities that provide instant rewards, our brains get used to receiving a quick burst of dopamine. But this can create a sort of dopamine burnout, where the brain becomes overstimulated and dependent on those rewards. This makes it difficult to engage in tasks that require sustained attention, deep thinking, and patience. When you embrace boredom, your brain enters a more relaxed state. It starts to look inward for stimulation, which can lead to greater self-reflection and creativity. In fact, studies have shown that boredom can actually spark creative thinking. Without the constant bombardment of distractions, the brain is forced to make connections between ideas, find novel solutions, and think critically. This process is what often leads to those aha moments of creativity, whether it's in problem solving, writing, or brainstorming new ideas. Boredom also provides your brain with a chance to reset its focus. It encourages you to engage in deeper thinking, which enhances cognitive abilities. For example, when you're no longer distracted by your phone or social media, you can fully immerse yourself in a book, reflect on your goals, or work on a project without the constant urge to check your notifications. In essence, boredom teaches your brain to slow down, which allows it to process information more efficiently and focus on what really matters. While you're experiencing boredom during a dopamine detox, this is the perfect time for self-reflection. Rather than using distractions to avoid the uncomfortable feeling of boredom, use it as an opportunity to reflect on your life, your goals, and your priorities. Think about the habits you want to develop and the areas of your life where you feel unfulfilled. Consider using this time for journaling. Writing down your thoughts allows you to process your emotions and gain clarity about your life's direction. You might find that your mind starts to wander toward deeper questions, such as, what do I really want to accomplish? Or, what makes me feel truly fulfilled? These questions might be harder to answer when you're constantly distracted, but when you embrace boredom, the answers can start to come to you more naturally. This is also an excellent time to reconsider your long-term goals. Are you focusing on things that bring you true satisfaction? Or are you constantly chasing the next quick reward? A dopamine detox gives you the space to think about what's truly important to you, whether it's personal development, relationships, or a career path. Use this time to reevaluate your priorities and make adjustments that align with your deeper values. When you step away from distractions, you give yourself the mental space to think more critically about your life's direction. It allows you to focus on personal growth, making more intentional decisions about how to invest your time, energy, and attention. Over time, this process of self-reflection during moments of boredom will lead to greater clarity and a more purpose-driven life. The first step to embracing boredom is to simply sit with it. Instead of reaching for your phone or turning on the TV to avoid the discomfort, give yourself permission to experience it. Acknowledge that it feels uncomfortable at first, but know that it's a necessary part of the detox process. Once you start getting comfortable with boredom, engage in activities that allow your mind to roam free. Draw, write, brainstorm, or work on a creative project that excites you. These activities allow your mind to move beyond distractions and tap into its creativity. Use the time to journal or meditate on your long-term goals and values. This could be a simple practice of sitting down with a notebook and reflecting on where you're heading in life, or it could be an opportunity to evaluate whether your current habits align with your true desires. Mindfulness techniques can help you embrace boredom in a productive way. Focus on your breath, engage with your environment, and practice being fully present in the moment. This helps you build tolerance to boredom and enhances your ability to focus on what really matters. In addition to doing a detox from high dopamine activities, limit other distractions that pull you away from boredom. Turn off your phone, close any unnecessary apps or tabs on your computer, and allow yourself to fully embrace the stillness. In the modern world, boredom is often viewed as something to be avoided at all costs. But during a dopamine detox, boredom is your ally. It forces your brain to reset, fostering creativity, productivity, and personal growth. By embracing boredom, you can gain clarity, focus on your long-term goals, and start to appreciate the more meaningful, fulfilling aspects of life. So, instead of running from boredom, lean into it and allow it to guide you toward a more intentional and purpose-driven life. One of the most powerful benefits of a dopamine detox is that it provides the opportunity to rewire your brain. After spending a period of time in the cycle of constant instant rewards, your brain's reward system becomes conditioned to seek quick fixes, whether that's from social media, video games, or junk food. A dopamine detox helps break this cycle and retrain your brain to find satisfaction in tasks that require sustained effort, focus, and hard work. When you step away from high dopamine activities during a detox, you allow your brain to recalibrate. The goal isn't to eliminate pleasure from your life, but to reset your brain's sensitivity to dopamine. When you stop constantly seeking external rewards, your brain starts to focus on internal rewards. This shift in how your brain processes motivation makes it easier to engage in productive behaviors, like working on long-term goals, studying, or exercising. The more you practice this, the more your brain rewires itself to associate hard work with satisfaction. By resetting your brain's reward system, you begin to build stronger neural pathways associated with more challenging but ultimately more fulfilling activities. Hard work and persistence start to feel more rewarding because your brain no longer expects an immediate payoff. Over time, this rewiring helps you prioritize effortful tasks and builds the mental resilience needed to tackle the more demanding parts of your life. Instead of avoiding difficult work, you begin to embrace it because your brain learns that the reward for doing it is more sustainable, longer-lasting, and deeply fulfilling. While a dopamine detox offers immediate relief from the cycle of instant gratification, the reset doesn't end after just one detox. The key is maintaining the benefits and gradually reducing your exposure to high dopamine activities over time. A single detox might help reset your brain, but lasting change requires a shift in habits. Here's the reality. If you immediately return to your old dopamine-heavy habits after a detox, your brain can quickly fall back into the cycle of quick rewards. To maintain the reset, you need to integrate the principles of the detox into your daily life. This means continuing to reduce the frequency of activities that give you instant pleasure, like checking your phone constantly or binge-watching shows, and focusing on habits that require sustained effort. One of the most important things to do is to slowly reintroduce these high dopamine activities in moderation. For example, instead of spending hours scrolling through social media, set a specific time limit each day, or, after accomplishing a difficult task, reward yourself with a short break or a small treat. The goal is to gradually return to a balanced approach without undoing the progress made during the detox. To break free from the dopamine cycle for good, you need to incorporate healthier habits into your daily routine. Here are some strategies to maintain the benefits of the detox and keep your brain's reward system balanced. One of the most effective ways to stay motivated after a detox is by rewarding yourself for completing productive, effortful tasks. For example, after a successful study session or completing a challenging work task, treat yourself to something you enjoy, but not necessarily a high dopamine activity. A walk outside, a cup of tea, or even a short break to relax can reinforce your brain's connection between hard work and reward. Building a routine is essential for keeping dopamine-driven distractions at bay. When your day is structured, it's easier to stay focused on important tasks. Set specific times for productive activities, like work or exercise, and reserve time for relaxation or low dopamine pleasures. Having a clear routine also reduces decision fatigue, making it easier to stay on track and avoid distractions. 1. Limit exposure to high dopamine activities. Be mindful of how often you engage in instant gratification activities. This doesn't mean you need to eliminate them entirely, but you should limit their frequency and be intentional about when and how you use them. For instance, designate specific times to check social media or watch a show, and avoid mindlessly scrolling when you're trying to focus on something more important. 2. Practice mindfulness. Incorporating mindfulness into your daily life can help you become more aware of when your brain is craving a quick dopamine fix. Mindfulness helps you stay grounded in the present moment and reduces impulsive behavior. Whenever you feel the urge to engage in a high dopamine activity, pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself if it aligns with your long-term goals. 3. Focus on intrinsic motivation. Find ways to align your tasks with intrinsic motivation, the internal rewards that come from pursuing something for its own sake. Instead of focusing solely on external rewards like praise or recognition, shift your focus to the personal satisfaction of achieving a goal. This might involve setting goals that feel meaningful to you, rather than pursuing tasks because they offer external rewards. 4. Incorporate physical activity. Exercise is a great way to balance dopamine levels. It releases a healthy amount of dopamine, and more importantly, it reinforces the connection between effort and reward. Regular physical activity not only benefits your body, but also trains your brain to focus and commit to tasks that require persistence. 5. Seek out long-term satisfaction. Focus on the bigger picture. Whenever you feel tempted by instant gratification, remind yourself of the long-term rewards you're working toward. Whether it's personal development, career goals, or relationships, the satisfaction that comes from achieving your big-picture goals is far more lasting and fulfilling than the fleeting pleasure of quick rewards. Breaking free from the dopamine cycle isn't an overnight process. It's about rewiring your brain to favor long-term goals over short-term pleasure. By embracing a dopamine detox and gradually reintroducing balance into your life, you can train your brain to crave hard work, build productive habits, and reduce your dependence on instant gratification. The key is to integrate these strategies into your daily routine and stay consistent over time. As you continue to make small adjustments and focus on the bigger picture, you'll find that it becomes easier to prioritize what truly matters, creating a healthier relationship with dopamine and a more productive, fulfilling life. One of the most powerful outcomes of a dopamine detox is the opportunity to build healthier, more sustainable habits. But the key to long-term success isn't about radically changing everything all at once. It's about starting small and gradually increasing difficulty as your brain becomes conditioned to enjoy hard work. Let's explore how to build these new habits and stay motivated for the long haul. Building new habits is all about starting with small, manageable tasks and gradually increasing their complexity. Trying to overhaul your entire routine overnight can be overwhelming and lead to burnout. Instead, begin by setting achievable goals that don't require drastic changes to your current routine. For example, if you've been avoiding exercise, don't start by committing to an hour-long workout every day. Instead, begin with just 10 to 15 minutes of exercise a few times a week. As your brain starts to get used to the activity, you'll notice that over time, it becomes easier and more enjoyable. This gradual increase in effort allows your brain to form new neural pathways and get used to the reward that comes from completing a productive task. It's important to remember that small wins build momentum. Every time you succeed at a small task, your brain is reinforcing the new behavior, making it easier to stick with. This makes the process of building healthy habits less intimidating and helps avoid the temptation of returning to easy, dopamine-heavy distractions. As you continue to succeed at these smaller tasks, you can start to take on more challenging goals, knowing that you've already conditioned your brain to work towards them. Consistency is the cornerstone of any lasting change. The brain thrives on routine, and the more you engage in productive activities, the more your brain will crave them. This is why staying consistent in avoiding dopamine-heavy distractions is so crucial for creating long-term change. When you maintain consistency, your brain begins to associate hard work with rewards, not immediate, fleeting rewards, but the satisfaction that comes from achieving something meaningful. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means showing up day after day and making progress, no matter how small. Whether it's carving out time to study, writing for 10 minutes, or hitting the gym a few times a week, the important thing is to make these tasks a regular part of your routine. If you fall off track, don't get discouraged. Acknowledge that slip-ups happen and refocus on the habit-building process. The key is not to aim for perfection, but to stay consistent and committed over the long term. Consistency in focusing on your goals, even when the rewards aren't immediate, leads to significant progress over time. And over time, these efforts compound to create lasting change. One of the challenges of building new habits is maintaining motivation. It's easy to get frustrated when the rewards feel too far off, especially when you've been conditioned to expect immediate gratification. That's where strategic rewards come in. Strategic rewards are about using dopamine as a tool to reinforce positive behavior. Rather than relying on external rewards like social media likes or junk food, you can use healthy rewards that help keep you motivated and reinforce your commitment to long-term goals. The idea is to reward yourself after completing productive tasks, but in a way that doesn't undermine your efforts. For example, if you're working on a writing project, reward yourself with a 10-minute break to listen to music or go for a walk after hitting a word count goal. If you've been consistent with your exercise routine for a few days, treat yourself to a relaxing activity like reading a chapter of a book or watching an episode of a show, just one episode, so it doesn't become a time-consuming distraction. By using rewards strategically, you give your brain the positive reinforcement it needs without overloading it with dopamine from unhealthy sources. The key is moderation. The reward should be something that gives you a sense of pleasure or relaxation, but doesn't hijack your brain's reward system in the same way that social media or junk food might. In addition, refrain from rewarding yourself with dopamine-heavy activities until after you've completed a productive task. This way, your brain learns to associate hard work with meaningful rewards, not with instant pleasure. By doing this consistently, you'll notice that motivation becomes easier to maintain, and the urge to indulge in quick dopamine fixes will start to fade. Another way to stay motivated is by creating a personalized reward system that works for you. For example, create a checklist of tasks that need to be completed each day and set up a system where each task completed gives you a reward. At the end of the week, tally up how many tasks you've completed and give yourself a larger reward, like a fun weekend activity or a special treat. By building a system of rewards, you're not only reinforcing the habits you want to form, but you're also keeping the process of working toward your goals fun and engaging. This reward system should be tailored to your preferences. What do you enjoy? What makes you feel good? Find rewards that are meaningful to you, but don't undermine the progress you've made. The goal is to keep the process sustainable while encouraging you to stay on track. Building healthy habits and staying motivated is all about gradual progress, consistency, and rewarding yourself in a strategic way. By starting small, staying committed, and rewarding yourself for completing productive tasks, you can train your brain to enjoy hard work. The process of rewiring your brain and reinforcing new habits takes time, but with patience, you can create lasting change. Remember, the goal isn't to completely eliminate pleasure from your life, but to find a balance between instant rewards and the satisfaction that comes from long-term success. As you continue to focus on healthy habits, the rewards of hard work will become even more fulfilling, and the need for instant gratification will diminish. One of the most powerful lessons from a dopamine detox is learning how to use dopamine strategically. While dopamine is often seen as something that controls our behavior, it doesn't have to dominate our lives. In fact, you can start using dopamine to your advantage by turning it into a tool for motivation rather than a source of distraction. Instead of letting dopamine control you by constantly seeking instant rewards, you can leverage it as a reward for completing difficult or long-term tasks. The key here is to use dopamine in a way that reinforces productive behaviors, such as working toward your goals, exercising, or learning something new. For example, after you've completed a challenging task, reward yourself with something that's enjoyable but healthy. This could be something like a 10-minute walk outside to clear your head or enjoying a chapter of a book you've been wanting to read. By saving these pleasurable activities for after you've accomplished something meaningful, you allow your brain to associate hard work with positive reinforcement. This strategy gradually helps your brain recalibrate to find satisfaction in effortful tasks. When you begin to consistently reward yourself after completing productive actions, your brain starts to crave these behaviors, associating them with the reward of dopamine. Over time, the desire to engage in high dopamine activities like scrolling through social media will diminish, while the motivation to work on long-term goals will grow. To avoid falling back into old, unhealthy habits, it's crucial to choose dopamine rewards that don't derail your progress. Instead of resorting to quick fixes like mindlessly scrolling through your phone or indulging in unhealthy snacks, opt for rewards that promote well-being. Some healthy alternatives for dopamine rewards include a walk or time in nature. Fresh air and a change of scenery can help clear your mind and give you a dopamine boost without overstimulating your brain. A healthy treat. Reward yourself with something nourishing, like a smoothie, a piece of dark chocolate, or a delicious fruit salad. A relaxing activity. Consider activities that help you unwind and recharge, like taking a bath, practicing yoga, or doing a 5-minute mindfulness meditation. These kinds of rewards provide the dopamine boost you crave, but in a way that supports your physical and mental health, rather than hindering it. By consistently using dopamine in a controlled way, you can gradually shift your brain's cravings toward healthier, more productive behaviors. When you begin rewarding yourself after completing meaningful tasks, your brain starts to rewire itself to crave that satisfaction. Over time, the desire for instant, fleeting pleasures will become less appealing, and the motivation to pursue long-term goals will increase. In the long run, this approach not only helps you stay focused on your goals, but also leads to sustained motivation and a more productive, fulfilling lifestyle. Instead of being trapped by the cycle of instant gratification, you'll find that hard work becomes its own reward. Embarking on a dopamine detox is more than just a short-term cleanse. It's an opportunity to reset your brain and break free from the cycle of instant gratification. Throughout this journey, you've learned how dopamine influences your behavior and how the constant need for immediate rewards can derail your focus, productivity, and long-term success. By temporarily disconnecting from high dopamine activities, you've allowed your brain to recalibrate, shifting your focus to more meaningful and productive behaviors. The great news is that this reset doesn't have to be temporary. As you continue to embrace hard work and learn to use dopamine strategically, you'll start to notice that tasks which once felt impossible or unappealing will become easier and more satisfying. The key is consistency. It's about gradually building new habits and reinforcing positive behaviors. By focusing on intrinsic rewards, like the satisfaction of accomplishing something meaningful, you'll find that dopamine begins to work in your favor, helping you achieve your goals in a way that's fulfilling and sustainable. Remember, success doesn't happen overnight. Building lasting change takes time, but by committing to the process and staying consistent, you'll gradually rewire your brain to crave the productive behaviors that will lead to your success. This journey is about taking control of your habits, managing your dopamine response, and finding the balance between work and reward that supports your long-term goals. Now, it's time to take action. You have the power to rewire your brain, embrace the hard work, and make the most of the opportunity a dopamine detox provides. I encourage you to try it. Commit to a 24-hour or 48-hour detox and see how it feels to step away from distractions and reset your reward system. After that, continue to build on the progress you've made by gradually reducing your exposure to high dopamine activities, creating new, healthier habits, and using dopamine as a tool to propel you toward your goals. The journey to achieving your dreams starts with consistency. Every small step, every bit of hard work, adds up. You have the power to break free from the cycle of instant gratification and start building a more focused, fulfilling life. It's time to take control and make the long-term rewards worth every bit of effort you put in. Your future self will thank you for it.